Hi there readers, welcome to our very first Books and Bones book club discussion video, and of course by default it is our first video about James Clear's Atomic Habits. I really hope everybody has enjoyed reading this book, no matter how much of it you've managed to read. It's no secret that I think this is an amazing book. James Clear really successfully simplifies the process of either stopping a bad habit or starting a new habit. I think it's an easy read, and I think there is lots in there that everybody can identify with. I don't know about you, but all the time I was thinking, oh yeah, I do that, and oh yeah, I do that. So both in a good way and not such a good way. The biggest danger with this book is it's such an easy read and quite a page turner that you could easily read it and then nothing happens. Now remember, that is what this book club is all about. It's not just about reading these books, it's about taking the next step, and these discussion videos will be really important because I'm hoping to highlight some things that will really make you think, oh yeah, I read that and I really could have done something about it, but I didn't. You might want to grab a notebook because I'm hoping that I'll be saying stuff that will make you want to write things down, that will give you some thinking about the things that James Clear talks about in relation to you personally. So we're going to go a bit deeper. I'm hoping that will really help you. Okay, let's make a start. This video, by the way, is suitable whether you've read the book or not. I'm going to be recapping on quite a lot, and James Clear does repeat quite a few of his themes right through the book, which is really important. We need to hear this stuff repeated. Repetition is the key to taking this really on board. I will be pulling in some quotes from further in the book as well, so don't get confused. I'm going to talk about all the ideas and all of the info, and like I said, I'm going to be asking some questions, giving you prompts, that things that we would be talking about if we were meeting in person, or things that you can journal about, and I highly recommend that you use these prompts for journaling. Sit and write down some of the things, because that's how we bring about change. And I'm going to assume that you've joined this book club because you want to develop yourself further. This video is focusing on the first part of the book, so pages 1 to 41. This book's really well sectioned as well to kind of divide it up. This is about understanding how habits work and why they are so important, especially to behaviour change. It's also about understanding where you are now and what's stopping you from achieving all the things that you want to achieve. Let's start with the behaviour change. James Clear explains how we change our behaviour. So B.F. Skinner back in the 1930s observed, created, named the stimulus response reward process, and this was popularised by Charles Duhigg, who changed it to cue routine reward. What Skinner realised is that if we offer the right reward or punishment, you can get people to act in a certain way. It's very simple, but, and this is the biggest value of this book, because James Clear makes a very accurate observation. What that does is it overlooks our thoughts and feelings and our beliefs around our behaviours. Now, those of you that know me from the gym will know I say similar to this all the time. Weight loss, everybody will tell you calories in, calories out. If it was that simple, we wouldn't have anybody that was overweight. It's not that simple when you bring in emotions, feelings and beliefs about these things. And this is why we need to go deeper, not into the book, but in what you thought about the book and the things in it. If you have not changed anything in your life since reading this book, then that is about your feelings and your beliefs, some of which might be so entrenched you don't even realise it can be changed. That's how important this stuff is. Let's get into it. Later on in the book, James Clear explains behaviours are attractive when they help us fit in. We follow the script handed down by our friends and family, our church, our school, our local community and society at large. Often you follow the habit of your culture without thinking, without questioning, and sometimes without remembering. How powerful is that to know about some of the things that we do each day out of habit, and how are we going to make those changes? And that is what this book is about. It's about unpicking some of those beliefs and about how you're going to change the things that you absolutely take for granted or take as fact. James Clear also says later on in the book, in the long run, we become a product of the environment that we live in. To put it bluntly, I've never seen someone consistently stick to positive habits in a negative environment. Wow. He also also says in this section of the book, so if you want to look it up, it's page 34, true behaviour change is identity change. There is internal pressure to maintain your self-image and behave in a way that is consistent with your beliefs. You find whatever way you can to avoid contradicting yourself. So when you're trying to change your behaviours, and throughout every day, we are constantly reinforcing what we already do. And this is why sometimes making these changes can be quite hard, because we're looking for a way to avoid contradicting ourselves. We want to be right. We want to know that what we're doing right now is okay. So page 32. Most people don't even consider identity change when they set out to improve. They just think, I want to be skinny, brackets outcome. And if I stick to this diet, then I'll be skinny, brackets process. They set goals and determine the actions they should take to achieve those goals without considering the beliefs that drive their actions. And I think this actually makes us a little bit uncomfortable sometimes when we think about our beliefs about ourselves, for example. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but trust me, if you do the difficult work, then the other stuff becomes dead easy. And actually, the things that James Clear suggests in this book makes it super easy, because we're talking about making small changes to help us change that identity. We need to make the connection between our habits and our identity. If we believe ourselves to be an exerciser, then we take the actions related to being an exerciser. And more importantly, if we believe we're an exerciser, we look for the opportunities to do it, because we don't want to contradict ourselves. If we don't believe ourselves to be an exerciser, we'll look for all the reasons that we can't do it. If we believe ourselves to be a person who handles money wisely and accumulates wealth, then we can start to take the steps to be that person. Now, there's a brilliant section in the book that explains the 3 layers to behaviour change. So I'm going to put these on screen. If you're looking in your book, it's page 30 and 31 for this section. So the 3 layers to behaviour change are outcomes, processes, identity. And your identity is about your beliefs, your worldview, your self-image, judgments about yourself. It's not about one level being better than the other. It's about your direction of change. Most of the time we start with the outcomes. How about changing what we believe about ourselves? Now, we might need to start with the outcome in our thought process, but in terms of the actions that we take, we need to start changing what we believe about ourselves. That means that you are moving from, I am the type of person who wants this, to I am the type of person who is this. And small habits are the key to this, and this is what I love about this book, because your small habits are daily votes that compound the new belief and the new identity. And this is really important, because the goal is not to read a book but to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon but to become a runner. And the goal is not to learn an instrument but to become a musician. And we'll talk in a little bit about goals and the problem with goals, but that does illustrate it. So becoming the best version of yourself, which I believe is why you're all here, because that is what self-development books are all about, requires you to continually edit your beliefs and to upgrade and to expand your identity. That's on page 36. And changing your beliefs and your identity is where the challenge lies. Also, it's the reason why the small and sometimes seemingly unrelated habitual tasks can become life-changing. Habits are the entry point to what you want to achieve. Small habits will help you fulfill your potential, James Clear says, and he also says it is the accumulation of small and consistent habits that ultimately lead to unimaginable gains. So don't read this book and think about a big change and how you're going to do that big change. Think about the steps. Think about how you can start small. And a good example of this is, if you want to develop the habit of reading, the biggest obstacle might be time, in which case you need to think about, where is your time going? We can all be busy, everybody's busy, but how are you spending that time, and where are the gaps? Where are the places that you can start making small changes? So if you spend an awful lot of time catching up on yourself, doing big tidy ups in the house, for example, how can you change your environment? Remember, you are the product of your environment. How can you change your environment so that you keep on top of housework, chores, tidying up, laundry? That's just a simple example. It's interesting to read James Clear's backstory and how he came to write this book right at the very beginning, because he suffered quite a significant brain injury, and then when he went to college, he wanted to be a better student. So So what did he focus on? He didn't actually make it a big deal and focus on his studies. What he did was focus on the small habits. He made sure that he got good sleep, he kept his dorm room tidy, he got into some good study habits. So it wasn't about the studying, it was about making it a habit. And that gave him the foundation for this book. So sometimes you need to focus on the seemingly unrelated tasks, and how keeping your environment tidy or having a little tidying up routine every day can help you go to the gym, become a reader, accumulate wealth, because you'll have more time to pay attention to your budgets and your finances. James Clear says on page 38, meaningful change does not require radical change. I see this so much in the gym. People think that they have to do all of the things in one go to achieve their goals. Most of the time, having left it for years and years and years, this is not how it works. Meaningful change can be quite small. It's about being consistent and about sustaining those changes, and about those changes casting votes for the person that you want to become. On page 37, James Clear says, whatever your identity is right now, you only believe it because you have proof of it. The more evidence you have for a belief, the more strongly you will believe it. How powerful is that? You have proof of everything you've ever done, ever said. If you tell me that you struggle to work out, you have the proof as well to back it up. Well, that has to start changing. You have to start creating the proof for the person you want to become. So if you want to become an exerciser, you need to start showing up. Easy peasy, right? Okay, earlier on in this section, page 15, James Clear says, too often we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it's losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Why do we do that? Well, that's because that's mostly what we see. When we see success stories, they're big stories, aren't they? It's a massive, amazing change. Somebody's gone from here to right up here in just a few steps that's been summarized and condensed into 500 words or a few minutes of video. And that, honestly, is not how it works. And that is not the norm either. Those changes take time, and those big success changes are usually because someone was at a level already. They've already made some of those changes, perhaps the seemingly insignificant ones that we take for granted that were already there. Now, an important point to remember when we're trying to change our behavior and our beliefs about ourselves, you can't lie. Doesn't work. So on page 32, James Clear explains, behaviour that is incongruent with the self will not last. You may want more money, but if your identity is someone who consumes rather than creates, then you'll continue to be pulled towards spending rather than earning. That just sums up everything I've ever experienced as a gym coach, to be honest. The ones that come in and succeed, the difference between those and the ones that don't succeed is simply that they change their beliefs about themselves. So instead of this is what I want to do, they're telling themselves this is what I am going to do. Easy. So easy. Oh, if only it was so easy. So these are not lies, and this process is a gradual one. This is why the small changes are really important, because you can't lie to yourself. This is a process of changing your belief, of going from this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I do. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, I've said this a million times already in this short video. Page 38, it's on page 38. Massive quote, write it down, stick it on post-its everywhere you need to see it. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. You get to choose every day, okay? You get to choose who you are, what you do every day. Literally, you are that powerful. You are in control of this. And I think this is the biggest eye-opener. Some of these small habits, they put you back in control of your life, even if you're only making one change. And I would recommend you only do one at a time. If you make one small change, that few minutes of your day, especially if it's first thing in the morning, you've got your win. That's your win for the day. If I only do this one thing, if I only tidy up from the night before, if I only do the dishes before I go to bed, it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's got different habits. You might be sat there thinking, oh, I always do the dishes before I go to bed. There's something else. There's something else that you can do that will make your life better and help you become the person you want to be. Because after all, why would you be here if you don't want to be your very best person? If you don't want to make some changes? You don't join a self-development book club unless you want to make changes, right? There's a brilliant bit about this as well that James Clear points out, and I love him for it, because he points out that it doesn't have to be perfect. You need to just accumulate wins at every opportunity. You don't even have to have all the wins. As long as there's more wins, more votes for the person you want to become. It's a majority thing. It's a majority. Just get more votes for the person you want to become. You're going to slip up. You're going to have the old behaviours, voting for your old identity happen. They're going to happen, especially to start off with. This is about taking every opportunity to vote for the person that you want to become. Once you start casting those votes, a funny thing will happen. You will spot more opportunities to cast more votes, even seemingly unrelated ones. You'll start seeing it in a completely different way. You'll start seeing the building blocks or the steps towards it. So you'll start seeing how tidying up the night before, for example, that's your win. It creates space the next day to do other things because you're not letting it pile up and it become overwhelming, because when it becomes overwhelming, that's when procrastination seeps in. Hopefully I'm making some sense with this, because this is such a massive topic, and I believe it or not, I'm going to try and make this video not too long. So the seemingly unrelated tasks clear your way. They make the space for the thing that you want to be or do. All right, so having your gym kit organized, so you pull it from the laundry, you put the tops and the bottoms together, they're ready to grab, it's in your bag, you prep your bag ready, whatever, you're clearing the way. So if things are getting in the way of you going to the gym or sitting down and dealing with your finances or whatever it is, you are, one, clearing the way, two, you are creating those beliefs by taking those actions in advance. That is a vote for the person you want to become. So when you get your gym kit ready in advance, that's a vote for the person you want to become. When you put your gym kit ready in the car, that's another vote. When you go to the gym, that's another vote. If you roll all that into one action, you've only got one vote. See? The small tasks make the massive difference as they accumulate, as they compound interest. Later on in the book, James Clear points out, habits are like the entrance ramp to a highway. They lead you down a path, and before you know it, you are speeding towards the next behaviour. It seems a lot easier to continue what you are already doing than to start something new. So we start something new by doing the small tasks, and we keep those going because that's an easier way to go about it than trying to start the big thing. These are runway tasks. I've referred to them as runway tasks in the past. If you've ever listened to mine and Danny's podcast, I've talked about runway tasks. These are the things that lead you into the bigger thing that you find harder. I really love runway tasks. I like soft tasks that lead me into the harder thing. Getting your gym kit ready is a prime example, okay? Preparing your water bottle, all the little things, they're coaxing you into the bigger thing. If doing a budget each month, if attending to your finances each month is really overwhelming, find the things that lead you into it gently. Later on in the book, James Clear says, habits are automatic choices that influence the conscious decisions that follow. Yes, a habit can be completed in just a few seconds, but it can also shape the actions you take for minutes or hours afterwards. Let's use the gym kit as another example. When you get your gym kit ready the night before in the morning, you constantly have on your mind that you are going to the gym later. That will influence lots of other things you do through the day, making sure you've drunk enough water, making sure that you've given your body the nourishment you need to fuel that workout later in the day, making sure that you keep your activity levels up, your steps up, whatever else it is you do to add in. That makes your workout more valuable because it's not just a workout. All of a sudden you've stayed active all day. Does that make sense? These little things are important. The runway, the entrance way to the other behaviours. Page 37, the process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. Now, I love this section. It's a simple two-step process. One, decide the type of person you want to be. Two, prove it to yourself with small wins. So get your journals out, get your notebook, bit of paper, do it on your phone, whatever. But who is the type of person you want to be? Let your mind run riot, big dreams, go big to start off with, and then think about the small votes that you can cast every day to start becoming that person. You get to choose who you are every day. Right, now we've got some idea of what we want to be doing and why. Awesome. Now we need to know how it's going to go down. And in the next video, I'll be doing the meat of this book, which is the 4 steps to behaviour change. In this section, James Clear does explain where we're headed and how it's going to happen a little bit, because it's not magic, is it? I wish it was. I wish there was a little genie in a lamp that would help us to do this. But we need to talk about the plateau of latent potential and the valley of disappointment. Okay, this is super important. I'm going to show the images on screen, but if you want to look at it in your book, you need to look at pages. Well, it starts on page 20, the diagram is on page 22, and it goes into page 23. So if you want to have a look, that's where you need to go. We expect progress to be linear. We expect the more that we do, do that the results come in line with that. And this is especially, those of you who are my gym members, is what we see all of the time. You literally think that if you do things right for 5 days, you'll have 5 days relative weight loss. Now, when I put it like that, I think it does sound nonsense, right? I don't know. Anyway, this is what we're conditioned to believe. And the reality is that the results of our efforts are often delayed. James Clear explains on pages 20 to 22, in the early and middle stages of any quest, there is often a valley of disappointment. It doesn't feel like you are going anywhere. It's a hallmark of any compounding process. The most powerful outcomes are delayed. I honestly couldn't have called it anything better, the valley of disappointment, because that is how it feels, and we all need to understand it's there, it's normal, and all we have to do is be consistent with these small habits, because they are what lifts us up out of the valley of disappointment. Remember, Clear says the accumulation of small habits ultimately leads to unimaginable gains. Compounding tasks, i.e. the accumulation of the habits, takes time. You need to be in this for the long haul, because this is identity change. We're changing 20, 30, 40, 50 years of a certain belief into something else. You need to stack up those votes for the person you're trying to become. The outcome might be big in the end, but the changes are small, so it takes time for them to add up to that big number, that big change at the end. On page 18, Clear says your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your bank balance is a lagging measure of your budget efforts. It all takes time, and we've become increasingly dependent on that very instant fulfillment that we get in the modern world. This is not what that is about. This is about those small changes accumulating those results for you. Now, I mentioned earlier about goals. James Clear goes to explain about the problem with goals, and I think this is really interesting. So goals are good, don't get him wrong. Goals are important, but he does have some significant things to say about them. I'm going to list them. Go and read it, pages 24 to 26. The problem with goals. Winners and losers have the same goals. That to me was like, oh my goodness me, he is so right. And he is referring to the fact that it is the systems that they implement that makes the difference, and their changing of habits. The fact that they do implement the systems, that's what makes the difference. Number 2, achieving a goal is only a momentary change. This is going back to the goal is not to read a book but to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon but to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument but to become a musician. That momentary change, you will lose all of your motivation afterwards potentially. So changing that goal or changing the outcome is really important. Goals restrict your happiness. I'll leave you to read about that. Goals are at odds with long-term progress. I'll leave you to read about that one too. Pages 24 to 26. Now, to clarify on the winners and losers have the same goals, this is another quote that I absolutely love, and it was a real eye-opener for me. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Page 27. Now, lots of people that know me well know I'm almost obsessed with systems. I need them because I'm not actually very good at implementing things, but this made me realise why I need them so much. So make sure that whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you've got the systems in place. And there's more info on that in the next video and in the book, where we will talk about the 4 steps to building better habits. For now, the next step should be, where are you now? Not just thinking about the outcomes we desire, our current habits, good and bad, but also about our identity associated with them and how you talk about yourself in relation to them. And when we say things like I'm not very good at, or I'm rubbish at, or I'm trying to, or I'm trying to give up smoking compared to I am not a smoker, that kind of thing. So this takes some time. Get your journals out, write about the things that you want to change and how you feel about those, and the things you do now which you think you want to change as well, and how you feel about them and your identity involved with those. Later on in the book, it's actually on page 62 if you do want to look it up, if you haven't got this far. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This can be more challenging than it sounds, because once a habit is firmly rooted in our life, it is mostly non-conscious and automatic. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think things that are happening in your life that you don't like or want that you're putting down to fate, and how perhaps you can change some of your beliefs and your habits to stop those things happening. I think some of this is quite hard. Maybe you'll find it easy. Maybe you'll find it easy to make a list of bad habits. Maybe that's just me. Right, page 18, back to the section that we're talking about. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. So if you are trying to achieve something, if you're trying to accumulate wealth, if you're trying to get fit and lose weight, if you're trying to have a career change or make progress in your career, if you're trying to have a beautifully tidy and organized house and you're trying to declutter, think not about your results but your current trajectory. What about your current behavior is sending you on this path, and how can you change it? And what are the small changes? Remember, these are not massive changes. These are not making grand gestures. I think this is a really powerful quote, and it's one to really take to heart and really think about. The quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits. So this is not just about bad habits. Are your good habits good enough? Are they good quality habits? Or are they just kind of okay, mediocre, meh habits? What do you want them to be? So to end, think about all the small changes that you could make that would improve the quality of your life. Maybe you want to buy yourself a bunch of flowers each week. Could be as simple as that, having fresh flowers in the house every week. This is a totally different approach. When you think about the things that improve the quality of your life, it's a different approach because you're not thinking about the things that you're not doing, the things that you should have done in the past. You're not judging yourself. You're thinking about, how can I make my life better? It reinforces the fact that the small changes make a big difference. It's not about the grand actions. It's time to take inventory, and if you're struggling to get started and get some real significant things written down, then go through the list I'm going to give at the end of this video and think about, what are my current beliefs and identity about this that drive my current actions in this area. Remember, your old identity can sabotage your plans for change. Sleep is a very good example because people think it's out of their control. I don't sleep. I struggle to sleep. That's your current identity and your belief. How about we change that, and what can we do to change that? So don't let yourself off the hook. We're not judging ourselves here. We're looking at areas that give us the opportunity to change to improve the quality of our lives. Think about what will be my new identity in this area, and where can good habits be built that will cast votes for my new identity, give me the feeling of being in control of my life, i.e. it's not fate, and improve my quality of life. So the foundations of good habits, here are the areas to think about. Good sleep, tidy and clean environment, exercise, nutrition and hydration, spiritual care, your finances, and lastly, your addictions, your bad habits, or your distractions. So think about the things that actually get in the way and distract you from doing the things that you want to be doing. That's all I've got for you. I hope it's really helped you to think deeply about this book and about how you're going to take some of the things into your life, and we'll be talking about the 4 steps to behaviour change in the next episode. I'm really interested to know your comments as part of this discussion, so pop them below. I'll really look forward to reading them, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.